Shabbat Shalom. I'm David Lister, rabbinic intern, joined by the wonderful Cantor Sharon for how good it is to be here this Shabbat. If the Nigun didn't do the trick, I invite us all to just take another extra moment to put the week to the side. We'll get back to it later. Just invite people to close their eyes if you're feeling comfortable. Take a deep breath in. Let it out. Open our heart and we let our souls face Shabbat as it's coming in, just getting dark out there. A little later now, I'm not saying too early anymore. Turn to page 128 in the Mishkan Tefillah, which if you don't have already, right by the door, for Ine Matov.
We continue to welcome each other and welcome Shabbat. What would Shabbat be without the light of the candles? Shabbat candles. So I invite Amy, leader, up to say the blessing and join us. Join her with the blessing. You need the page on page 120 is where the blessing is located.
ישמרני אותי לעולמי בינו וביני אותי לעולמי בינו וביני. We've done a nigun to get us breathing together, a nice little kavanah with David. We've sung some songs, lit the candles. It is time now to welcome the angels of Shabbat to bring their own special brand of light into the room. So please join me for Shalom Aleichem on page 142. Shalom Aleichem, Malachei HaSharet, Malachei Elyon, Mi Melech, Malachei Hamlachim HaKadosh Baruch Hu. Boachem l'shalom, Malachei HaShalom, Malachei Kadosh Baruch Hu, Baruch Hu Nil Shalom, Malachei HaShalom, Malachei Elyon, Mi Melech, Malachei Hamlachim HaKadosh Baruch Hu, Tzedchem l'Shalom, Shalom, Malachei Elyon, Mi Melech, Malachei Hamlachim, HaKadosh Baruch Hu. Turning to page 148, 138, 139, we do it is our tradition to, our Kabbalat Shabbat tradition really stems from the mystics, yes, I did say that right. And they would, in Sfat, they would run out into the fields facing the setting sun and greet the Shabbat bride, greet Shekhinah, the dwelling presence of God, as a bride on Shabbat. And so this piyut, this poem that we sing every Shabbat, is about welcoming Shabbat as a bride. If you look at the final verse, verse 9, Boi v'shalom ateret bala, gam b'simcha uv'tzochola, toch emuna am segula, Boi chala, come bride, come bride. So we stand on that final verse. We turn as if we were welcoming a bride into the room. You turn and you face that bride and you bow to her with reverence and glory as she enters and brings that much more, brings the love of a bride. The Shekhinah comes and joins us. So please join me. We will do verses 1, 2, 8, and 9, and I'm going to do a version that I don't think I've done here. So I will, like any song with a verse and a chorus, you'll catch on. Lecha dodi likrat kala pene Shabbat nekabela. Try that. Lecha dodi likrat kala pene Shabbat nekabela. Shamor v'zah
standing as we turn to page 144 for the Chatzi Kaddish. Yitgadal ve'yitgadash Shemei Rabba
Amen.
Ve'alma divrach chiyutei ve'amlich malchutei
B'chayechon u'vyomechon u'chayetecho bet Yisrael Bagala u'vizman karib
V'imeru
Amen. Ishmei Rabba mevorach le'olam le'omei hamaya yitbarach.
Yitbarach ve'yishtabach v'yitbar v'yitramam v'yinaseh v'yitadar v'yitale v'yitala Shemei dekudesha
Brichu
Le'ela min kol birchata v'shirata
tushbechata v'nechemata damiram bi'alma.
Ve'imeru
Amen.
Page 146, the Baruch Hu. Baruch Hu et Adonai HaMevorach.
Baruch Adonai HaMevorach le'olam va'ed.
Baruch Adonai HaMevorach le'olam va'ed.
You may be seated. The next few prayers that we will recite or sing reflect the many aspects of God which we worship tonight. In the Ma'ariv Aravim, we worship God as the creator of day and night and all things, just with a word. Page 148. Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam Asher bidvaro ma'ariv aravim b'chokhma poteach sheharim uvidvuna mishoneh itim umachalif et hazmanim umisader et hakochavim b'mishmerotehem barakia kirsono borei yom v'layla borei or mipnei choshech v'choshech mipnei or v'choshech mipnei or umavir yom umevir layla umavdir ben yom uvelayla Adonai tzvaot shemo Elchai V'kayam Tamid Yimochaleinu le'olam va'ed. Baruch atah Adonai Ha'ma'ariv Aravim. Page 150. Havat Olam, we are loved by an unending love. This is the blessing of God who nurtures us and cares for us by giving us Torah. Ahavat Olam Beit Yisrael Amcha Avta Torah u'mitzvot
שיח בחוקיך, ונשמח בדברי תורתך, ומצוותיך לעולם ועד. כי חיים חיינו, ואורך ימינו, ובהם נגה יומם ולילה, נגה יומם ולילה. ואהבתך אל תסיר ממנו לעולמים. ברוך אתה אדוני, אוהב עמו ישראל.
Turn to the Shema on page 152.
Shema Yisrael, Adonai Eloheinu, Adonai Echad.
Page 154. ואהבת
את אדוני אלוהיך בכל לבבך ובכל נפשך ובכל מאודיך, והיו הדברים האלה אשר אנוכי מצווך היום על לבביך, ושיננתם לבניך, ודיברת בם בשבתך בביתך, ולכתך בדרך, ובשכבך ובקומך, וקשרתם להוד על ידיך, והיו לטוטפות בין עיניך, וכתבתם על מזוזות ביתך ובשעריך.
So this Shabbat, along with synagogues all around the country, we mark National Reproductive Rights Shabbat. And in a moment, we'll sing Mi Chamocha on page 158. And we'll see the third line is Nora Tehilot Ose Fele. Awesome in splendor, working wonders, referring to God. And there's an idea that was really animating to the early Reform movement. Sometimes seems very far away from a lot of Reform congregations now, called ethical monotheism. This idea that God is an ethical standard that we're oriented towards, not so much a being that is or isn't, but we're facing there. I was looking at this line tonight, thinking about Repro Shabbat. I was thinking about what a standard that could be. Awesome in splendor, working wonders, and feel very far off from there these past couple years with reproductive rights. Maybe we imagine this Shabbat at a time when we're a little closer to that standard. Maybe work there too, work hard to get there. Mi Chamocha is on page 158.
יוסיף אדוני את יעקב, ויעלום יד חזק ממנו. ברוך אתה אדוני, גאי ישראל. Turning to our next prayer, Hashkivenu. Grant, O God, that we lie down in peace and that you be our guardian through the night, so we can wake up to a life renewed. This has an loose English translation, and then we'll move into the prayer. When I lay me down to go to sleep, I pray the Lord my soul will keep, and as my soul wanders into the deep, shelter me please neath your wings. Let me walk around the block with you, lie under the night sky and howl at the moon. Let me have another chance to make a difference to someone next day when I wake. Hashkivenu Adonai Eloheinu leshalom v'ha'amidenu shomreinu lechayim ufroz aleinu sukat shlomecha v'takneinu beitza tova milfanecha. When I lay me down to go to sleep, I pray the Lord my soul will keep, and as my soul wanders into the deep, shelter me please neath your wings. Shelter me please neath your wings. Baruch atah Adonai, haporei sukat shalom aleinu ve'al kol amo Yisrael, ve'al Yerushalayim. As we have seen and sung and prayed to God as our protector, our freedom maker, our lover, our bride, we also remember that we made a covenant with God at Mount Sinai to keep Shabbat. It is one of our principal commandments that we read about just a couple of weeks ago, right? We should remember Shabbat to keep it holy. And this next melody, or this next prayer on page 162, Vishamru, speaks of that promise that we will keep Shabbat as a covenant for all time. Vishameru b'nei Yisrael et ha-Shabbat steps back. And 3 forward. Continue silently from page 166 to 181. The words in the prayer book or the words in your heart. When you are done, feel free to sit. Shalom Imroma, Shalom Aleinu, Ve'yako Yisrael, Ve'yako Yoshvei Tevel, Ve'yimru Amen. Shalom Imromav, Hu Yaseh Shalom Aleinu, Ve'al Kol Yisrael, Ve'al Kol Yoshvei Tevel, Ve'imru Amen. Yalla la 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 la, yalla la 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 la, yalla la 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 la. We add to these prayers, spoken aloud and said silently, a prayer for healing. Do you have the list? Somewhere. So David will read the list of names of those who need prayers in our congregation, and then he will pass his hand around the room, give you the opportunity to add names.
Tonight, the CBI community is thinking of for healing Stephen Keese, William Rose, R.L. Roberts, Michelle Phillips, Dean Weber, Robert Ray, Linda Fields, Jerome Commissar, Edka Brenna Von Naomi, Ty Hudden, Ron Heller, Lena Lewis, Malkatsiro Batavoradina, Sarba Avraham, Kathleen Ford, and Maya Smith. Are there any other names you'd like to add in, either with the community or silently in your heart?
Page 677. Sorry. El na refanala, words from Torah. God, I pray, please heal her. We will also add a verse, El na refana lob, heal him, and El na refa lanu, heal them. Six, seven, way in the back. Only a few words, you don't really need it. That's pretty much it.
Shabbat Shalom. So I think I know most of you by now, but for those I don't and those who are new, welcome. And for those of you who do know me, you know that I do a bit of a commute to get here. I live in New York. For those of you who don't know me, I live in New York. And tonight I want to let you into just a little something that I do in New York when I'm not here at CBI. Back in New York, I serve as an interfaith children's hospital chaplain, focusing on Spanish-speaking families in the pediatric and neonatal intensive care units. Through this work, again, when I'm back in New York, not commuting here, I periodically see families seeking asylum, navigating an arcane, cruel immigration system while simultaneously caring for sick children. I've been thinking a lot recently about a conversation I had with a mother a little while ago. She had been alone with her young son in the hospital for a week or two when we first met. The son was lying in bed, clearly in pain. Her mother was sitting in the chair next to him, facing him worriedly. Covered nearly head to toe, I drew a chair next to them in my medical grade KN95 mask, bright yellow surgical gown, and purple latex gloves, looking totally normal. The medical team had been discussing with her discharge plans for her son, who, thank God, was on track for full recovery. But there was an issue that was immensely distressing the mother. It was only 2 weeks until the city would evict her and her son from the emergency shelter they were staying in while they were applying for asylum. "It's not even like our room in the shelter is so great," she told me through tears. "There's black mold, it's loud, and it's infested with rats. I crossed the Darien Gap with my child literally on my back. And now this?" I don't remember what I said in response, or if I said anything at all. I literally could not imagine quite what they had experienced. Empathy, after all, has its limits. All I could do was sit there and be with them, trying to share in their pain for those minutes we were in the room together before we went back to our separate ways. I'm thinking about this conversation with this mother and her son in the room this Shabbat, while considering two very similar, though not quite identical verses from this week's Parsha, Mishpatim, laws, that deal with treatment of a ger, which refers to someone coming from outside the Jewish community who now resides amongst Jews in biblical Hebrew. While later rabbinic texts treat ger as referring to someone who has converted to Judaism, ger in biblical Hebrew has an approximate meaning of immigrant. But more broadly, I want to suggest that we think of a ger as anyone from outside our community, anyone who has a bit of a different experience from our own. Okay, so now the first of the two verses I'm thinking of is this. V'ger lo tonam v'lo tilchatzem, ki gerim hayitem be'eretz Mitzrayim. You shall not mistreat or oppress a ger, because you were gerim in the land of Egypt. Okay, so here's the second verse. V'ger lo tilchatz, ve'atem yadatem et nefesh hager, ki gerim hayitem be'eretz Mitzrayim. You shall not oppress a ger, for you know the soul of a ger, because you were gerim in the land of Egypt. The two verses both have the basis of you shall not oppress a ger, because you were gerim in the land of Egypt. But the former verse adds mistreat to oppress, so you should not mistreat and oppress. While the latter adds, for you know the soul of the ger. That's not there in the first one. So tonight I want to draw our attention to this unique reference to the soul that's in the second verse. You shall not oppress the ger, for you know the soul of the ger, because you were gerim in the land of Egypt. What's up with this addition, for you know the soul of a ger? Medieval Spanish rabbi Rabbeinu Bahia writes on this verse, it doesn't say, for you know the ger, but instead says, the soul of the ger. You know the soul of the ger. Which is to say, you know that the soul of each ger is down on itself, and there is no one to whom they can lift their eyes except for me being God in the translation, in the rewriting. Therefore, I am compassionate unto them, like I was unto you when you were gerim in the land of Egypt. Now, this shared compassion for a soul in low spirits only exists in the second verse that references the soul, not the first verse. What then does the first verse offer us? Don't we have everything we need in the second, or the other way around? Aren't they basically the same thing? So here are those two verses again. The first, you shall not mistreat or oppress a ger, because you are gerim in the land of Egypt. Second, you shall not oppress a ger, for you know the soul of the ger, because you were gerim in the land of Egypt. what does it mean that the first verse makes no mention of the soul? Where is it? So I'd like to suggest that these two readings map onto how we treat others with sympathy and empathy, respectively. To use renowned social work researcher Brené Brown's framework, empathy is this kind of sacred space when someone's kind of in a deep hole and they shout down from the bottom and they say, "I'm stuck, it's dark, I'm overwhelmed." And then we look and we say, "Hey, I'm down. I know what it's like down here, and you're not alone." When it comes to sympathy, we look down, but we don't get down into the hole with them. It's one thing to be able to recognize a hard situation that someone else is in, perhaps even based on a personal experience. But it's another to recognize the feelings of that situation, the feelings, and relate to them on an emotional level. Empathy is an admirable goal, but it's not feasible or even advisable to inhabit a constant state of empathy. To use Brown's image of the hole, we have to climb out of the hole at some point. Otherwise, we're just going to be stuck down there too. Sometimes even getting into the hole in the first place can be too dangerous for our own well-being. But sometimes we do indeed have to climb down in there. According to Brown, empathy is a choice, and it's a vulnerable choice because in order to connect with you, I have to connect with something in myself that knows that feeling. Passing by the tent encampment that was just down the street a couple months ago was having a shared experience of housing insecurity, a precondition for tapping into the feelings of sadness and desperation that I imagine those people were experiencing? I don't think so. Thinking about reproductive freedom this Shabbat in particular, is having a uterus a precondition for tapping into the feelings of someone trying to get an abortion when their state government has criminalized it? I don't think so. You shall not oppress a ger, for you know the soul of the ger, because you were gerim in the land of Egypt. Now the word for soul in Hebrew in the original is nephesh, which can also be translated as feelings in addition to soul. We know the nephesh, we know the feelings of the ger, and of course, we know those feelings of those who are not gerim also, those in our own community. It doesn't matter if the nephesh is a Jewish nephesh, a non-Jewish nephesh, a nephesh seeking asylum, a nephesh in need of housing, a nephesh seeking an abortion, or some combination of those things. But we can know their soul, their feelings. But when we do climb down into that hole, is it enough? Once we climb out of the hole, walk away from the tent encampment, which we know is no longer there, last I checked. Walk out of the hospital room. Then what? I'm reminded of a teaching from Rabbi Shai Held on the meaning of a verse from Isaiah. Shimur mishpat v'asu tzedakah. Keep justice and do righteousness. Sounds pretty similar, but they're not quite the same thing. He equates keeping justice to working for systemic change and doing righteousness with working for the well-being of individuals. One should not pat oneself on the back just for working for the former, he says, nor should one applaud oneself just for working for the latter. Both of these approaches are not sufficient without the other. And so, sometimes we sit in the hole, but sometimes we have to get out. But wherever we are, our Torah tells us that we can never really fully turn away from the ger. Even with the limits of empathy, we always know something about the souls and the feelings of the ger, for we were gerim in the land of Egypt too. Shabbat shalom. We start to wind down our service, which again is only the beginning of a long, restful Shabbat.
That's right.
We turn to page 586 for the Eleni. I invite you to rise as you are able.
עלינו לשבח לאדון הכל, לתת גדולה ליוצר בראשית, שלא עשנו כגויי הארצות, ולא שמנו כמשפחות אדמה, שלא שם חלקנו כהם, וגורל עלינו ככל המונם. ואנחנו קוראים ומשתחווים ומודים לפני מלך מלכי המלכים הקדוש ברוך הוא, שהוא נוטה שמיים ויוסר הארץ, ומושבי קרוב השמיים ממעל, ושכינתו זו בגבי מרומים, ואלוהינו אין עוד, אמת מלכנו אפס זולתו, ככתוב בתורתו, וידעת היום, והשבות אל לבבך, כי אדוני הוא האלוהים, בשמיים ממעל, ועל הארץ מתחת. אין עוד. Page 591. ונאמר, והיה אדוני למלך על כל הארץ, ביום ההוא יהיה אדוני אחד, ושמו אחד.
Please be seated. Now, as we go into the Shabbat, we're aware of those who are not with us this Shabbat, and we feel them with us, and we think of them. And so, for anyone who's here observing any period of mourning, Yortzei Sheva Shloshim Shana, I invite you to share the names with the community. To those names we add Harold Applebaum, Lynn Carter, Francis Chisdes, Diane Fox, Yaakov Yosef Hymas, Lillian Kornblatt, Harriet Cullerman, Harriet Levine, James Richard Moore, Samuel Newell, Anna Newman, Daniel Queen, Ann Ryder, Gilbert Malakoff Rosenthal, Sid Rosen, Robert Rudderman, Robert Salisbury, Melvin Schwartz, Marcia Steinman, Michael Weber, Judith Ginsburg Whitner, Carol Abramson, and Lena Hartman Grossman, and observing Shlovshin Amikal. We turn to Mourner's Kaddish on page 598, and I invite you to rise as it's your custom. Yitkadal v'yitkadash shmei Rabbah.
Amen.
Be'alma divrach yirati ve'amlich malchutei b'chayachon v'yomechon v'chaye d'chol beit Yisrael ba'agala v'zman kariv v'imru
Amen.
Yehe shmei Rabbah mevarach le'olam u'mei maya Yitbarach v'yishtabach v'yitpa'ar v'yitramam v'yitnaseh V'tadar v'taleh v'talal shmei dekudasha
Rechu
le'ela min kol birchata v'shirata Tushbachata v'nechemata, Damiran bilma v'imrum,
Amen.
Yehesh lama rabba min shamaya, V'chaim aleinu vel kol Yisrael v'imrum,
Amen.
Oseh shalom v'imroma, V'yaseh shalom, aleinu vel kol Yisrael v'imrum.
Amen.
Zichronam levracham. May the memories be a blessing. Please be seated. And we have some announcements. Tomorrow morning at 10 p.m. right here.
AM.
Yeah.
No.
Tomorrow morning happens in the AM. Very good point. It's like I'm so in the Shabbat mode. It's like it's nighttime. Yes.
Wake up.
Wake up. Join the traditional egalitarian minyan for Shabbat morning service, which is in the morning, which will also be available on YouTube. And the link can be found in this week's newsletter. And then this Sunday at 2 p.m., I will not be here because I will be on the plane, but let me tell you, if I were here, I would go to this, standing together, Omdim B'Yachad, Arabs and Jews choosing a shared future, on Zoom. Congregation Beth Israel and the New Israel Fund are proud to present a conversation with Sally Abed and Alon Lee Green of Standing Together, Omdim B'Yachad, led by Rabbi Tom Guttertz. At a time of extreme tension and strife between the Palestinian, Arab, and Jewish communities in Israel, Sally Abed and Alon Lee Green, the leaders of the Israeli Arab-Jewish grassroots movement Standing Together, Omdim B'Yachad, Nachiv Ma'am, are as committed as ever to promoting a message of a shared, equal, and just society. Registration is required to join this program on Zoom. The link can be found in this week's newsletter. And I'll say that when I lived in Jerusalem, Omdim B'Yachad, Standing Together is one of those organizations that I just really came to trust and admire. If you are available. What's that? Find Sydney in just a few minutes, right up there.
She'll tell.
She'll tell you. Yeah, for anyone who's not getting the newsletter, Sydney is your person. Anything else? Please.
Okay. Anything else?
If no, we turn to page 625 to close with Adon Olam.
Adon Olam Asher Malach B'terem Kol Yitzir Nivra Li'ed Nasa V'chevso Kol Azai Melech Shemo Nikra Ve'achare Kichot HaKol Levado Yimloch Nora Ve'hu Haya Ve'hu Hove Ve'hu Yeh B'tifara Ve'hu Echad Ein Sheni Lehamshilo Lehachbira Beli Reshit Beli Tachlit Velo Haoz Becham Yisrael Ve'hu Eli V'chai Goali V'tzur Chevli V'yitzara Shabbat Shalom. Please join us for Kiddush and Motzi in Omansky Hall.